Sawadee-kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our Pali Canon in English study group where we study the words of the Buddha. We're in volume 13, which is titled Generosity, and we're going to be studying chapters 31 through 40. This is where you're learning about generosity. So thank you for joining the class today. Welcome if you're joining for the first time or you've been joining regularly. The way that we do this program is I share the original words of the Buddha and someone will read the chapter. Today it will probably be me reading the chapters. Then I will share some teachings on that chapter and then open up to any and all questions that you have. You can put those questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or in Zoom you can raise your hand electronically and ask any and all questions that you like. So this first chapter is chapter 31. This chapter is titled 8 Kinds of Rebirth on Account of Giving. Monks, there are these 8 kinds of rebirth on account of giving. What 8? 1. Here, someone gives a gift to an ascetic or a Brahmin, food and drink, clothing and vehicles, garlands, scents, and ointments, bedding, dwellings, and lighting. Whatever he gives, he expects something in return. He sees affluent Khattiyas, affluent Brahmins, or affluent householders enjoying themselves, furnished and endowed with the 5 objects of sensual pleasure. It occurs to him, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in companionship with affluent Khattiyas, affluent Brahmins, or affluent householders. He sets his mind on this, fixes his mind on this, and develops this state of mind. That objective of his, determined on what is inferior, not developed higher, leads to rebirth there. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with affluent Khattiyas, affluent Brahmins, or affluent householders, and that is for one who is virtuous, practices moral conduct. I say, not for one who is immoral. The heart's objective of one who is virtuous succeeds because of his purity. 2. Someone else gives a gift to an ascetic or Brahmin, food and drink and lighting. Whatever he gives, he expects something in return. He has heard the heavenly beings ruled by the 4 great kings are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. It occurs to him, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings ruled by the 4 great kings. He sets his mind on this, fixes his mind on this, and develops this state of mind. That objective of his, determined on what is inferior, not developed higher, leads to rebirth there. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings, ruled by the 4 great kings. And that is for one who is virtuous, practices moral conduct. I say, not for one who is immoral. The heart's objective of one who is virtuous succeeds because of his purity. 3. Someone else gives a gift to an ascetic or a Brahmin, food and drink and lighting. Whatever he gives, he expects something in return. He has heard the Tavasatasim heavenly beings, the Yama heavenly beings, the Tusita heavenly beings, the heavenly beings who excite in creation, the heavenly beings who control what is created by others are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. It occurs to him, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings who control what is created by others. He sets his mind on this, fixes his mind on this, and develops this state of mind. That objective of his, determined on what is inferior, not developed higher, leads to rebirth there. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings who control what is created by others. And that is for one who is virtuous, practices moral conduct. I say, not for one who is immoral. The heart's objective of one who is virtuous succeeds because of his purity. 8. Someone who gives a gift to an ascetic or a Brahmin, food and drink and lighting. Whatever he gives, he expects something in return. He has heard the heavenly beings of Brahmas, God's company, are long-lived, beautiful, and abound in happiness. It occurs to him, oh, with the breakup of the body after death, may I be reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings of Brahmas, God's company. He sets his mind on this, fixes his mind on this, and develops this state of mind. That objective of his, determined on what is inferior, not developed higher, leads to rebirth there. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn in companionship with the heavenly beings of Brahma's, God's company. And that is for one who is virtuous, practicing moral conduct, I say, not for one who is immoral, for one without craving, not for one with craving. The heart's objective of one who is virtuous succeeds because of his purity. These monks are the 8 kinds of rebirth on account of giving. Okay, so if somebody has studied this far in the book series, up to volume 13, chapter 31, then they've already learned the cycle of rebirth as part of volume 1, or part of volume 11, which is titled The Realms of Existence. In that book, you're learning all about the 5 realms of hell, animal realm, afflicted spirits, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. And now what you're learning is about generosity, because while generosity is the 13th book, it's actually highly important for your practice to help you get to enlightenment. You have breathing mindfulness meditation helping you to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, the cause of discontentedness, but you also have the practice of generosity. And of course, the entire Eightfold Path is there to help you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But it's generosity combined with breathing mindfulness meditation that's really targeting this in a more general way, but it's really targeting the craving, desire, attachment. So you're going to need to arise this practice of generosity where you're sharing with the people around you. And one of the groups of people you might choose to share with is ordained practitioners or teachers, to be able to help them, to be able to support them in their development of their mind and their practice. And then if they're sharing teachings, to help them to be able to share the teachings. And the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that the same things that lead to enlightenment are the same things that lead to rebirth in some favorable location or some improved location perhaps. Because being reborn into hell, the animal realm, or afflicted spirits, these are realms that aren't able to actually get to enlightenment, and you wouldn't be interested in being reborn there. So here, being reborn in the human realm or any of the heavenly realm or in the heavenly realm, this would allow you to then be able to get to enlightenment in the potential future rebirth. But being reborn into the lower realms isn't going to afford you that opportunity. So notice here when the Buddha is talking about generosity, he's talking about that this person gives with an expectation of something in return. In this case, the individual isn't practicing pure generosity. They still have an expectation of getting something in return. And this is one of the reasons why they're being reborn, is because they still have craving, desire, attachment. In order to practice pure generosity, you need to get to a point where you don't have any expectation of anything in return from other people. And that's what's going to promote the mind letting go. Whereas if you have an expectation of you wanting something from other people, you're not yet practicing pure generosity, and therefore you can experience discontentedness. Because if you're giving with an expectation of something in return, if you get what you want, you get the pleasant feelings of happiness, excitement, elation, and others. But if you don't get what you want and what you expected, then you get frustrated or angry or sad or some other painful feeling. So whenever you're giving and sharing and you're practicing generosity, you need to do that without any expectation of anything in return, including something as simple as holding the door for other people. If you're practicing generosity where you're holding the door and you're standing there with an expectation that someone will say thank you, and they walk through and they don't say thank you, you'll be irritated, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated and annoyed. And that's because of your expectation. That's not because of the other person. Because not everybody's going to say thank you. If everybody said thank you, that would be permanence. You need to realize the universal truth of impermanence, that some people are going to say thank you and some people won't. If every single person said thank you, then the universal truth of impermanence wouldn't be a universal truth. So by having expectations attached to your giving, then whenever you give something, you're going to sometimes be happy and you're going to sometimes be sad or frustrated because your expectations can't permanently be met. So if you're interested in getting to enlightenment, you're going to need to practice generosity, but be sure to do that without any expectation of anything in return. What the Buddha is talking about here in terms of rebirth, This isn't the goal of his teachings. He's just sharing with you the cause and effect, or the action and result. He's helping you see the natural law of Gama, or some people refer to it as karma. This is the main natural law that the Buddha is helping you to awaken to, is this cause and effect, or action and result. This is helping you to be able to gain the wisdom to be able to see what are the causes that lead to certain effects, or what are the actions that lead to certain results. And then having that wisdom, you can navigate the world more readily, where you're making wise decisions that is producing wholesome results for you. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this particular chapter. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. All right, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I'm going to move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 32. This one is titled, Even More Fruitful Than Giving. If, householder, one gives alms, rough or excellent, and one gives disrespectfully, gives inconsiderately, does not give with one's own hand, gives what would be discarded, gives without a view of future consequences, then wherever the result of that gift is produced for one, one's mind is not inclined towards the enjoyment of superb food, nor towards the enjoyment of superb clothing, nor toward the enjoyment of superb vehicles, nor toward the enjoyment of whatever is superb among the 5 objects of sensual pleasure. Also, one's children and wives, in one's slaves, servants, and workers do not want to listen to one, do not lend an ear, and do not apply their minds to understand. For what reason? Just this is the result of actions that are done disrespectfully. If, householder, one gives alms, whether rough or excellent, and one gives respectfully, gives considerately, gives with one's own hand, gives what would not be discarded, gives with a view of future consequences, then wherever the result of that gift is produced for one, one's mind inclines towards the enjoyment of superb food, toward the enjoyment of superb clothing, toward the enjoyment of superb vehicles, toward the enjoyments of whatever is superb among the 5 objects of sensual pleasure. Also, one's children and wives and one's slaves, servants and workers want to listen to one, lend an ear, and apply their minds to understand. For what reason? Just this is the result of actions that are done respectfully. Okay, I'm going to pause here before I move on with the rest and just help you understand what the Buddha is talking about. He's sharing this cause and effect, this natural law of Gama. He's saying essentially if you practice generosity of giving to ordained practitioners and teachers things in a way that is disrespectfully, you give inconsiderately, you're not actually giving with your own hand, you're giving what you would otherwise discard and that you don't necessarily see as valuable, you're not thinking about future consequences, and essentially you haven't put any thought behind your offering. He's saying because you're giving disrespectfully, that the result of that is the people around you, here he's talking about children, wives, slaves, servants, workers, you can think of these as your employees, but all the people around you, they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to heed your advice. They're going to also be making unwise decisions because you are making unwise decisions. So people are going to follow you and they're going to pay attention to what it is that you're doing. Whether you do something disrespectfully or respectfully, people around you are going to function in the same way as you. Oftentimes we think that it's other people that need to change, and we might go out into the world in the unenlightened state and trying to change everybody else. But in reality, you need to change your own mind, because when you focus on changing your own mind, then the people around you will start to gradually change. But as long as you're making unwise decisions, maybe you're being bitter and harsh and hostile and disrespectful to people, then the people around you are going to be that exact same way. So you're going to need to arise the wisdom of how to transform your mind so that you can be respectful. And that's what the Buddha is saying here in this second part. This other picture is an individual who is giving respectfully and considerately, and they're not giving what would otherwise be discarded, that they're thinking about the future consequences of their giving and things like this. And because of this, the individual functioning in a respectful and wise way then the people around them, here the Buddha's talking about children, wives, and others, that they do have this interest in listening to you, and they respect you, and they will pay attention to the things that you share. Again, if you're doing things that are wise, people around you will see that, and then they'll tend to make wise decisions as well. So the Buddha is painting these two pictures of individuals who are giving disrespectfully versus respectfully. And of course, there's improved results for someone who's giving respectfully. So then he goes on. He says, in the past, householder, there was a Brahmin named Velama, who he gave such a great he gave such a great alms offering as this: 84,000 golden bowls filled with silver, 84,000 silver bowls filled with gold, 84,000 bronze bowls filled with bullion, 84,000 elephants with golden ornaments, golden banners covered with nets of gold thread, 84,000 chariots with upholstery of lion skins, tiger skins, leopard skins, and saffron-dyed blankets with golden ornaments, golden banners covered with nets of gold thread, 84,000 milk cows with jute tethers and bronze pails, 84,000 maidens adorned with jeweled earrings, 84,000 couches spread with rugs, blankets, and covers, with excellent coverings of antelope hide, with canopies and red bolsters at both ends, 84,000 katas of cloths made of fine linen, fine silk, fine wool, and fine cotton. How much more of food and drink, snacks, meals, refreshments, and beverages. It seemed to be flowing like rivers. You might think, householder, he was someone else, the Brahmin Velama, who on that occasion gave that great alms offering. But you should not look at it in such a way. I myself was the Brahmin Velama, who on that occasion gave that great alms offering. Now, householder, at that alms offering, there was no one worthy of offerings, no one purified the offering. Even more fruitful than great alms offered that the Brahmin Velama gave would it be to feed one person accomplished in view. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahmin Velama gave in feeding 100 persons accomplished in view would it be to feed one once returner. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahma Velama gave in feeding 100 once returners would it be to feed one non-returner. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahmin Velama gave in feeding 100 non-returners would it be to feed one arahant. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahma Velama gave in feeding 100 arahants would it be to feed one Haka Buddha. Even more fruitful than the great alms offering that the Brahma Velama gave in feeding 100 Pakya Buddhas would it be to feed the Tathagata, the Arahant, the perfectly enlightened one? Would it be to feed the community of monks headed by the Buddha? Would it be to build a dwelling dedicated to the community of the four quarters? Would it be for one with a mind of confidence to go for refuge to the Buddha, the teachings, and the community? Would it be for one with a mind of confidence to undertake the 5 training precepts, to abstain from the destruction of life, to abstain from taking what is not given, to abstain from sexual misconduct, to abstain from false speech, to abstain from liquor, wine, and intoxicants, substances that cause heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness? As great as all this might be, it would be even more fruitful if one would develop a mind of loving kindness, even for the time it takes to pull a cow's udder. As great as all this might be, it would be even more fruitful if one would develop the perception of impermanence just for the time of a finger snap. Okay, so what the Buddha is talking about here is a person in the past who made this substantial offering, right? He's making this enormous offering. And the Buddha is saying that hey, that pales in comparison in making that offering to someone who is in one of the 4 stages of enlightenment, and he's increasing the number of those, where he's talking about accomplished in view. This is essentially someone in the first stage of enlightenment. We refer to it as a stream enterer. There's a once returner, which is the second stage of enlightenment, a non-returner, which is the third stage, and then an arahant, which is the 4th stage where the mind is actually enlightened. So as you're making offerings to these people, the quality of what you're experiencing is improving, because you're able to come in contact with wiser and wiser people who are actually going to then be able to help you to learn and practice the teachings. There isn't anything mystical or magical about making an offering to an arahant or to an enlightened being. But if you're able to identify an arahant, an enlightened being, you have a certain amount of wisdom to be able to do that. And then to be able to come in contact with that person through making an offering, you'd be able to learn and grow and develop and be able to get closer to enlightenment yourself. A Pakya Buddha, this is an individual who has gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, but they choose not to share the teachings that it took them to get to that enlightened mental state. I've never encountered an individual like that. So the Buddha here is mentioning that, so they must have existed during his lifetime, but I haven't seen any of those types of individuals today. But then he goes on and he says, okay, making an offering to an actual Buddha is essentially one of the best things that you could ever do, because if you're living during the lifetime of a Buddha, your Gama is such that you must have experienced significant wholesome Gama at different times in your previous lives to be able to be born during a lifetime of an actual Buddha, because that's when the wisdom to get to enlightenment would be so deep and so profound in the world. And now if you're coming in contact with an actual Buddha, a Tathagata, the one who's discovered the truth or one who is sharing the truth, now you're able to actually learn and grow and develop. That's what the word Tathagata means. This is how the Buddha would refer to himself, as the one who discovered the truth or the one who shares the truth. So the Buddha is saying this is a very high quality of wholesome Gama that you're able to generate in coming in contact with an actual Buddha. And this is why the Buddha is describing this, so that you can see that there isn't anything mystical or magical. It's that you're coming in contact with someone who has deep wisdom. But then he goes on and he shares these other types of offerings as well. And ultimately what he gets to is he says the highest quality of wholesome Gama that you could generate is that if you're training in the 5 precepts and you're practicing the 5 precepts, because by you not causing harm through killing, stealing, having sexual misconduct, lying, and taking intoxicants, you're causing less and less harm to other beings or to yourself. And that means there's less and less harm in the world for others to deal with. And then you're experiencing less and less harm coming back to you. So that's a really high quality of Gama. But then the second highest quality would be to practice loving kindness, having loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. This will ensure that you're not practicing anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, because loving kindness is exactly the opposite of that. So cultivating your mind with loving kindness is the second highest quality of Gama that you could produce. The highest quality is to actually develop the perception of impermanence, where you understand that the things around you are impermanent, because that's what's going to help to accomplish the elimination of craving, desire, attachment. Without the understanding of things around you being impermanent, the universal truth of impermanence, you wouldn't be able to make progress on the path to enlightenment. That's the very first teaching that you need to know in order to get on the path to enlightenment, is that there's this universal truth of impermanence explaining that everything around you is temporary. It arises, it changes, and it fades away. This is going to help you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And through eliminating craving, desire, attachment, you'll experience more peace and more joy in the mind. Ultimately, having eliminated all cravings, desires, attachments, you will experience the peace and joy of the enlightened mind. So these are the 2 highest quality things that you could do. And essentially the way you develop these is 1, through loving kindness meditation and practicing through your intention, speech, and actions to be loving and kind. But then also you can walk around the world to develop the perception of impermanence and see very clearly that everything around you is impermanent. You can independently verify that. And then you can also accomplish this through meditation, whereas thoughts are coming up in your meditation, you're cutting them off and letting them go, realizing that they're impermanent. So let me know what questions you guys have here. This is chapter 32, which is titled Even More Fruitful Than Giving. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here, so we'll move on to chapter 33. Chapter 33 is titled The 8 Streams of Merit. Monks, there are these 8 streams of merit, streams of the wholesome, nutriments of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening in peacefulness, conducive, that lead to what is aspired for, needed into heaven, agreeable to one's welfare in peacefulness. What 8? Here, a noble disciple has gone for refuge to the Buddha. This is the first stream of merit, stream of the wholesome, nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening in peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed and agreeable to one's welfare in peacefulness. Again, a noble disciple has gone for refuge to the teachings. This is the second stream of merit, the stream of the wholesome, nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening in peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed and agreeable to one's welfare and peacefulness. Again, a noble disciple has gone for refuge to the community. This is the third stream of merit, stream of the wholesome, nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening in peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed and agreeable to one's welfare and peacefulness. There are, monks, these 5 gifts, great gifts, highest, of long standing, traditional, ancient, untainted, and never before tainted, which are not being tainted, and will not be tainted, not refused by wise ascetics and Brahmins. What 5? Here, a noble disciple, having abandoned the destruction of life, abstains from the destruction of life. By abstaining from the destruction of life, the noble disciple gives to an immeasurable number of beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. He himself in turn enjoys immeasurable freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. This is the first gift, a great gift, highest, of long standing, traditional, ancient, untainted, and never before tainted, which is not being tainted and will not be tainted, not refused by wise ascetics and Brahmins. This is the fourth stream of merit, stream of the wholesome, nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed, and agreeable to one's welfare and peacefulness. So now 5 through 8, again, a noble disciple, having abandoned the taking of what is not given, abstains from taking what is not given, abstains from sexual misconduct, abstains from false speech, abstains from liquor, wine, and intoxicants, substances that cause heedlessness, the basis for heedlessness. By abstaining from all of these things, the noble disciple gives to a immeasurable number of beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. He himself, in turn, enjoys immeasurable freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. This is the fifth gift, a great gift, highest, of long standing, traditional, ancient, untainted, and never before tainted, which is not being tainted and will not be tainted, not refused by wise ascetics and Brahmins. This is the 8th stream of merit, stream of the wholesome, nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed, and agreeable to one's welfare and peacefulness. These, monks, are the 8 streams of merit, streams of the wholesome, nutriments of peacefulness, heavenly, ripening in peacefulness, conducive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed, and agreeable to one's welfare and peacefulness. So here the Buddha is explaining to you how to develop these 8 streams of merit and these beneficial results. 1 is going to the Buddha, having confidence in the Buddha, having confidence in the teachings, and confidence in the community. But then he goes into the 5 precepts, that having practiced the 5 precepts, you're giving an immeasurable number of beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm, because you're choosing not to kill, you're choosing not to steal, to have sexual misconduct, to lie, and to take intoxicants. And when you take intoxicants, you're more likely to kill, to steal, to have sexual misconduct, and lie. So by you practicing the good, wholesome moral conduct, by having learned and having confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, in the community, you're giving all these beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. And what the Buddha is saying is you enjoy the same thing coming back because you're not causing harm to other beings. So therefore, you can have the freedom of fear, hostility, and harm yourself because you know that these things aren't going to come back to you. Because you're not harming other beings, this harm isn't actually going to come back to you. So the Buddha is just helping you see the connection between the moral conduct and this natural law of Gama, and how you can rid your mind of any fear, hostility, and harm that you might be possessing. Because if you lack wisdom of the natural laws and you're out there causing harm through your intention, speech, and actions, it will produce fear in your mind that you'll be worried about people coming to cause you harm because you know that in your mind that you're causing them harm. But when you clean up the harm that you're causing through purifying your mind and training your mind to do wise things, then you don't have to fear any harm coming back to you because you can see the cause and effect that by you not causing harm to others, no harm is coming back to you. So let me know what questions you guys have here on chapter 33, the 8 streams of merit. Okay, I don't see any questions anywhere. So now we'll go to chapter 34. This one is titled The 3 Bases of Meritorious Activity. Monks, there are these 3 bases of meritorious activity generating wholesome Gama. What 3? The basis of meritorious activity consisting in giving. The basis of meritorious activity consisting in virtuous behavior. The basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. Okay, so here he's talking about giving, about moral conduct, and meditative development. This is called the way of practice. Generosity, moral conduct, and meditation. These are the 3 things that would be wise for you to practice on any given day in order to make your way to enlightenment. Here, monks, someone has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting of giving to a limited extent. He has practiced the basis of meritorious activity consisting of virtuous behavior to a limited extent. But he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. With the breakup of the body after death, he is reborn among humans in an unfavorable condition. Okay, so I'm going to pause here so you can see the theme of what he's going to be talking about all the way throughout this discourse. He's talking about someone who has practiced generosity to a limited extent, has practiced moral conduct to a limited extent, and hasn't practiced meditation at all. It says, but he has not undertaken the basis of meritorious activity consisting in meditative development. And in this case, the individual is going to be reborn into the human world in an unfavorable condition. So if you're ever reborn into the human world, if you're currently in the human world and have been reborn in an unfavorable condition, then you understand why, right? That it's through having only practiced generosity to a limited extent and virtuous behavior to a limited extent. The mind wasn't practicing meritorious activity, I wasn't practicing meditative development. So now it's the same theme all the way throughout, that this person has practiced generosity to a middling extent, has practiced virtuous behavior to a middling extent, and has not practiced meditation. And he says with the breakup of the body after death, he's reborn among humans in a favorable destination, because now he's practicing generosity and virtuous behavior a little bit better, but still not practicing meditation. So here, the third one, this individual is practicing generosity to a superior extent, practicing virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but is not undertaking meditation. And with the breakup of the body after death, he's reborn in the companionship with the heavenly beings, ruled by the 4 great kings. Then he talks about here of what transpires there. So now the 4th one, he's saying meritorious activity consisting in a superior extent, that's the giving, the virtuous behavior to a superior extent, but has not practiced meditation. And he says, okay, with the breakup of the body, this being is also being reborn in the heavenly realm, in a certain class of heavenly beings. Then again, generosity to a superior extent, moral conduct to a superior extent, but is not undertaking meditation. So here they're reborn into another group of heavenly beings. Then again, generosity to a superior extent, moral conduct to a superior extent, but meditation is not having been undertaken at all. And in this case, they're being reborn in the heavenly beings as well. Here again, superior extent, and not practicing meditation. This is being reborn into another group of heavenly beings. Now practicing generosity and moral conduct to a superior extent, but still has not practiced meditation. And in this case, the Buddha is talking about being reborn into another group of heavenly beings. So here you can see that without meditation, they're not getting to enlightenment, right? You can practice generosity, you can practice moral conduct, but without meditation, you're not getting to enlightenment. You're still actually being reborn. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this chapter. This is chapter 34, the 3 bases of meritorious activity. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere, so we're going to move on to the next chapter. Here, this is chapter 35. Looks like Keely would like to read. Go ahead, ma'am.
A heavenly being's curiosity. A heavenly being, giving what does one give strength? Giving what does one give beauty? Giving what does one give ease? Giving what does one give sight? Who is the giver of all? Being asked, please explain to me. The perfectly enlightened one. Giving good, one gives strength. Giving clothes, one gives beauty. Giving a vehicle, one gives ease. Giving a lamp, one gives sight. The one who gives a residence is the giver of all, but the one who teaches the teachings is the giver of the deathless. Enlightenment, a heavenly being, for whom does merit always increase, both by day and by night. Who are the people going to heaven, established in the teachings, endowed with virtue, moral conduct? The perfectly enlightened one, those who set up a park or a grove, the people who construct a bridge, a place to drink, and a well, those who give a residence. For them, merit always increases, both by day and by night. Those are the people going to heaven, established in the teachings, endowed with virtual moral conduct.
Okay, thank you, Keely. So here, this is a recounting of a heavenly being coming to the Buddha and asking for guidance and asking questions. And he's explaining that if you give food, you're giving strength. And if you're giving clothes, you're giving beauty. If you're giving a vehicle, you're giving this ease. And when you're giving a lamp, you're giving sight. And when you're giving a residence, this is giving for all. But one who teaches the teachings, they're giving the deathless, which is this enlightened mental state. Because once you get into the enlightened mental state, you're no longer dying, you're experiencing final enlightenment. So here the Buddha is explaining that. But then they go on and ask the Buddha further questions about how do you make a gift that is just always producing merit for you. And the Buddha basically says an individual who sets up a park, a grove, who constructs a bridge, a place to drink, a well, those who give a residence. These are all very significant gifts. And the Buddha is saying this is what is really helping you to produce a significant amount of merit. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this chapter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I'm going to move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 36. This is titled People Who Generate Much Merit, Wholesome Karma. Keely, would you like to read that one?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
People who generate much merit, wholesome karma. Monks, whenever ritual monastic come to a home, the people there generate much merit, wholesome karma, on 5 grounds. Plot 5. 1. When people see virtuous monastics come to their home, and they arouse hearts of confidence towards them, on the occasion that family is practicing the way conducive to heaven. 2. When people rise, pay homage, respect, and offer a seat to virtuous monastics who come to their home. On that occasion, that family is practicing the way conducive to birth in high families. 3. When people remove the stain of selfishness toward virtuous monastics who come to their home, on that occasion that family is practicing the way conducive to great influence. 4. When according to their means, people share what they have with virtuous monastics who come to their home, on that occasion that family is practicing the way conducive to great wealth. 5. When people question virtuous monastics who come to their home, make inquiries about the teachings, and listen to the teachings, on that occasion that family is practicing the way conducive to great wisdom. Monks, whenever virtuous monastics come to a home, the people there generate much merit, wholesome karma, on these 5 grounds.
Okay, thank you, Keely. So here the Buddha is providing some guidance on what produces merit, or this wholesome karma. When you're practicing generosity and you're giving and sharing with local community members like your neighbors, your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your coworkers, people like this, you're producing wholesome karma because you're training your mind to let go, eliminate craving, desire, attachment, and you're eliminating any kind of selfishness in the mind. So it's helping you to get closer to enlightenment. But when you're practicing generosity towards the continued sharing of the teachings of the Buddha, sharing your time, effort, energy, and resources without any expectation of anything in return, not only are you eliminating craving, desire, attachment from your mind, not only are you eliminating selfishness, but you're making the teachings available for other people to be able to then access them and then be able to improve the condition of their mind. So getting to the point where you're producing merit is very helpful for you, and it's helpful for the world. So the Buddha is providing these 5 ways, and there's others as well, but he's providing these 5 that are going to help you to be able to produce this merit. The first one is having confidence towards the monastics or the monks, the ordained practitioners, the teachers, having confidence in the teachings that are being shared. Then he talks about rising up and paying respect or offering a seat to virtuous monastics when they come to your home. And then 3, he's talking about removing the stain of selfishness, meaning you're willing to share when people come to your home to share the teachings. Then he says this next one, this 4th one, where according to your means, you share what you have, meaning you need to practice generosity from the middle way. Whereas if you practice generosity extensively, you're not going to have the basic needs that you need in order to sustain your life. But if you never practiced generosity, your mind would be quite selfish. So you need to come to the middle and practice generosity according to your needs. And then this 5th one, the Buddha is talking about asking questions. This is what leads to great wisdom, that when you ask questions of teachers and listen to the teachings, it helps you to develop your mind and cultivate wisdom and get closer and closer to enlightenment. And this also helps the teachings continue in the world, because the more people in the world that learn the teachings and hear the teachings, they can remember those teachings and then be able to practice them and benefit themselves and benefit the people around them. So let me know what questions you guys have with this chapter. This is chapter 36. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So we'll move to chapter 37. This one, Keely, would you like to read all the rest of them like you normally do?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Having fulfilled and not having fulfilled one's duty towards the ascetics, ordained practitioners, monks, last night when the night has advanced, a number of heavenly beings of stunning beauty, illuminating the entire Jada's growth, approached me, paid homage, respect to me, and stood to one side. Those heavenly beings then said, in the past, Venerable Sir, when we were human beings, monks approached our homes. We rose up for them but did not pay homage, respect to them. Not having fulfilled our duty, full of regret and remorse, we were reborn in an inferior class of heavenly beings. So some other heavenly beings approached me and said, "In the past, Venerable Sir, when we were human beings, monks approached our homes. We rose up for them and paid homage respect to them, but we did not offer them seats, not having fulfilled our duty, full of regret and remorse. We were reborn in an inferior class of heavenly beings. Some other heavenly beings approached me and said, "In the past, Venerable Sir, when we were human beings, monks approached our homes. We rose up for them, paid homage respect to them, and offered them seats, but we did not share things with them to the best of our ability and capacity. We shared things with them to the best of our ability and capacity, but we did not sit close by to listen to the teachings. We sat close by to listen to the teachings, but we did not listen to it with eager ears. We listened to it with eager ears, but having heard it, we did not retain the teachings in mind. Having heard it, we retained the teachings in mind, but we did not examine the meaning of the teachings that had been retained in mind. We examined the meaning of the teachings that had been retained in mind, but we did not understand the meaning of the teachings and then practiced in accordance with their teachings. Not having fulfilled our duty, full of regret and remorse, we were reborn in an inferior class of heavenly beings. Some other heavenly beings approached me and said, "In the past, Venerable Sir, when we were human beings, monks approached our homes. We rose up for them, paid homage respect to them, offered them seats, and shared things with them to the best of our ability and capacity. We sat close by to listen to the teachings and listened to it with eager ears. Having heard it, we retained the teachings in mind. We examined the meaning of the teachings that had been retained in mind, and we understood the meaning of the teachings and then practiced in accordance with the teachings. Having fulfilled our duty, free of regret and remorse, we were reborn in a superior class of heavenly beings. These are the feet of the trees, monks. These are empty huts. Meditate, monks. Do not be complacent. Do not have cause to regret it later, like those prior heavenly beings."
Okay, thank you, Keely. So here the Buddha is recounting some heavenly beings that came and actually shared with him that when they were human beings, they weren't practicing the teachings very closely. And because of that, even though they were reborn in heaven, they weren't born in a favorable destination within the heavenly realm. And the Buddha is encouraging people not to be complacent, that by learning and practicing and developing, then you can actually get to enlightenment. So down here at the very bottom, he's talking about ensuring that you don't get complacent with the meditation, because having done so, you're going to be reborn. You're going to have this remorse and this regret. Even being reborn in the heavenly realm, you're going to have this particular amount of regret and remorse. So by being dedicated, determined, and diligent to your practice, you can gradually make your way to enlightenment, and then you can escape the whole cycle of rebirth and not have this regret, is what the Buddha is describing here. Let me know what questions you guys have on this particular chapter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So now we'll move on to the next one, chapter 38.
Offerings that are not worth even a fraction. Whatever woman, much joyful, endowed with virtue moral conduct, a disciple of the welfare, food and drink, gives having overcome material gain. The gift is heavenly, dispelling sorrow, bringing peacefulness, and she gains a heavenly being, lifespan owing to the spotless, stainless way. She aspiring merit, at ease, health faith, joyful long in the heavenly company. If one practices the teachings through getting on by gathering, if while one supports one's wife, one gives from the little one has than 100,000 offerings of those who sacrifice 1,000 are not worth even a fraction of the gift of one like him, since they give while settled in uprightness, having slain and killed, causing sorrow, their offering, fearful, a result of violence, shares not the value of the righteous one's gifts. That is why 100,000 offerings of those who sacrifice 1,000 are not worth even a fraction of the gifts of one like him.
Okay, thank you, Keely. What the Buddha is talking about here is that when you make an offering, it's important that you're not causing harm in whatever offering you're making. So, for example, if you went out and you killed a pig and you offered that, you're causing harm to another being, and this doesn't produce the amount of merit and wholesome Dhamma that you would be interested in producing. Or say you went out and stole money, or you stole a car from somebody and then you offered that. You're harming someone and it's not producing the merit and the wholesome Dhamma. But the Buddha is saying that, if you righteously gain any particular material possession and then you offer that, that is what the type of offering that you would like to offer, because now you've earned that righteously and now you are providing that offering to someone. So the Buddha is teaching you not to cause harm to others in any kind of offering that you make. And you can think about this not only stealing from others, but you need to think about your own family, your husband, your wife, your children, your parents, your employees, people around you. You need to be sure that you have what you need in order to sustain your life and that those people are well taken care of before you make any kind of generous offerings, so that way you're not harming them and making any kind of offering that you're making. So let me know what questions you guys have here on this chapter. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll go to the next one. This is chapter 39.
Gifts of an unwholesome person and a wholesome person. Monks, there are these 5 gifts of an unwholesome person. What 5? 1. He gives carelessly. 2. He gives without deep respect. 3. He does not give with his own hand. 4. He gives what would be discarded. 5. He gives without a will about the result of giving. These are the 5 gifts of an unwholesome person. Monks, there are these 5 gifts of a wholesome person. What 5? 1. He gives carefully. 2. He gives with deep appreciation and gratitude. 3. He gives with his own hand. 4. He gives what would not be discarded. 5. He gives with a will about the result of giving. These are the 5 gifts of a wholesome person.
Okay, thank you, Keely. So these two are the exact opposites of each other, talking about the gifts of an unwholesome person and a wholesome person. But let's focus on the gifts of a wholesome person, because that's what you're interested in practicing. And the unwholesome person is just the opposite. The Buddha is saying that an individual who is wholesome, when they give a gift and they practice generosity, they give carefully, meaning you've thought this out, right? You just haven't haphazardly thrown an offering together, but you think this through and you give carefully. That you give with this deep respect and this appreciation and gratitude towards the individual that you're making the offering to. That you give with your own hand, meaning that you don't say, hey, Mom, here's some clothes, you go do this, right? That you actually go do the work and effort. This is what's going to train your mind to let go. And then you give what is not discarded, meaning that if you were going to throw away some leftover food and you would like to not give that kind of gift, you would like to go out and purchase some really nice food and give it to somebody perhaps, right? So you're not interested in giving what would otherwise be discarded. So this is one of the qualities of a wholesome person who's giving. And then this last one is something to really focus in on, is that he gives with the view about the results of giving. What the Buddha is talking about here is that you understand why you're giving. Why are you practicing generosity? You're practicing generosity to enhance the quality of your mind, to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. That's the view about the results of giving. And you need to be able to have that in order to be able to practice pure generosity, and then practice all 5 of these factors for your generosity. This will help you to have a gift that is well thought out, that you have appreciation and gratitude, that you're giving with your own hands. So it's helping you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. You've actually gotten a certain gift that is intended for this particular person, and you're giving with your generosity, understanding that it's enhancing the quality of your mind, training to eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And that's what you would like to do in order to cultivate your practice of generosity. And then just the opposite is what the Buddha is describing as an unwholesome person that hasn't really thought through their gift. So let me know what questions you guys have here. Looks like Keely has a question. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes. Talking about giving carefully, if we tend to give show our generosity to somebody, but we actually don't quite know like the gifts, whether it's appropriate for them or not, and then we give it to them, and then the person who received the gifts, actually they won't like it or even hate the gifts we selected for them. So if we don't know whether it's careful or carelessly, would we rather be just not showing the generosity, not giving the gift to others?
It's if you can't practice giving carefully, meaning you've thought through your gift, it's better to not practice generosity in that case because you're giving carelessly. But if you make a gift or you make an offering and the person gets angry or mad, they're actually causing that themselves because they had a certain expectation. I had this happen when I was growing up. I one time gave my girlfriend a waffle iron for her birthday or for Christmas or something because I saw that she was always making waffles and she enjoyed making waffles and she didn't have a very nice waffle iron. So I got her one and she was so angry at me for that. And that's because she had expected something like maybe a jewelry or maybe a stereo or some kind of electronic device or something else. I don't know what she expected. She never told me, but she got really angry that I gave her this waffle iron. I thought it was a great gift. I gave carefully. I really considered what would this person like because I see her cooking all the time and I thought that maybe this would be something that she likes. So she calls her own anger in that situation. So whenever you're interested in practicing generosity, you should practice generosity. And as long as you're paying attention to these 5, that's what you would like to do. And if the other person gets angry or upset, they're causing it themselves.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let me see what else we got here. If we have any questions. I don't see any other questions. So now we go to the last chapter for today, which is chapter 40. If you'd like to go ahead and read this one. This one is similar to the previous one, but it's a bit more extended.
Okay, I can read it. Gifts of a wholesome person. First discourse. Monks, there are these 8 gifts of a wholesome person. What 8? 1. He gives what is pure. 2. He gives what is excellent. 3. He gives a timely gift. 4. He gives what is allowable. 5. He gives after investigation. 6. He gives often. 7. While giving, he settles his mind in confidence. And 8. Having given, he is joyful. These are the 8 gifts of a wholesome person. He gives what is pure and excellent, allowable drinks and food at the proper time. He gives gifts often to fruitful fields of merit, to those who lead the spiritual life. He does not feel regret, having given away many material things. Those with deep wisdom praise the gifts given in this way, having thus practiced charity with a mind freely generous. One intelligent and wise, rich in confidence, is reborn in a pleasant, untroubled world, heavenly realm.
Okay, thank you, Keely. So this is another 8 things that you can focus on in terms of developing your practice of generosity, giving what is pure, what is excellent, a timely gift at an appropriate time, what is allowable, meaning like if a practitioner, like an ordained practitioner or a teacher, you know that they're eating vegetables and vegan food, that you would give them those kinds of things if you're giving them food rather than giving them meat, for example. Giving after investigation, that you investigate what would be wise, what would be appropriate. I would like to focus you in on this number 6th one, where he talks about giving often. This is what actually is going to have the big impact on your mind, is giving frequently. Sometimes people might give a gift like once every 6 months or once a year or something like this. This isn't going to have the same impact to your mind as if you're giving every day. You can give your time, effort, energy, and resources a little bit every day. So let's just say you give a gift like $500 once a year to some charity or something. It would be much better if you gave like $1 a day, or you gave $5 a week or something like this. This is going to give you the frequency of having to give, and your mind's having to let go. So just like with meditation, where the frequency is more important than the duration of your meditation, the same thing is true with generosity. The frequency of your generosity is more important than the amount or the quantity that you're giving. So if you give like $1 a day, if you're out and about and you see a donation box and you can just give $1, or you see somebody who needs some food or something like that, and you just give little by little like that, that's actually much better for your mind than giving a significant gift once a year, because your mind's having to let go multiple times. So the Buddha teaches to give daily. And this is why the ordained practitioners walk down the street and the villagers have the opportunity to give food or give gifts daily to the ordained practitioners, because the ordained practitioners aren't able to keep food for more than just that one day. Whatever they get that day, they're supposed to eat it that particular day. So that way, every single day, there's ordained practitioners out and about, and people need to be able to practice generosity to support them. So it gives you the opportunity to practice generosity daily. And then he says, while giving, one's mind is settled in confidence. Whenever he talks about confidence, he's talking about confidence in the Buddha, the teachings, and the community, that you're confident in that your giving and your generosity is helping you to eliminate craving, desire, attachment, and that you're giving with this joy. You shouldn't have remorse or regret after you make a gift. Like, oh my goodness, I gave so much. Why did I give so much? I'm not going to have what I need in order to sustain my life. Or you might have regret or remorse, like, oh my goodness, I should have gave more. I'm so selfish, right? You're not interested in having that remorse at the end of your offering. You would like to maintain a joyful mind before and after giving. And then while you're giving, the mind should be calm and confident. So the Buddha is giving you 8 individual factors here to make sure that you understand how to develop your practice of generosity. And this is so important to help you eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, and ultimately get to enlightenment. So let me know what questions you guys have here, if any at all. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So I will thank all of you guys for joining for today's class. Next week, we're going to be in chapters 41 through 50. In another few weeks here, we're coming to an end of the Pali Canon and English study group, where we've gone through all 13 volumes in a year and a half. And we're going to be starting over from the very beginning with volume 2. So if you'd like to start from the very beginning of the Pali Canon and English study group, you have that opportunity. Not that you have to start at the beginning, but you have that opportunity coming up here soon. In July, we're going to be starting from the very beginning. So thank you, Keely, for reading. I really appreciate your sharing your time and practicing generosity. That's helping you to produce merit. That's wonderful that you're choosing to share your time, effort, your energy, your resources to share the teachings of the Buddha. That's wonderful for you. So thank you for that. And thank you for all of you who are dedicated and diligent to learning and practicing, whether you're attending live or you're listening to this on the replay. And you're always welcome to come to our future classes of the Pali Canon and English Study Group or the Group Learning Program. Because tomorrow on Sunday, I'm going to be in Volume 1, Chapter 8, which is titled Transforming the 3 Poisons, Craving, Anger, and Ignorance. And this is where you're going to learn about the 3 high-level problems that the Buddha discovered in the unenlightened mind and how to actually fix it. So if you understand the problems, you understand the solution or the symptoms of those problems, and you understand the solutions to those problems, then you can implement them and actually see real results and improvements in your life. So that's going to be on Sunday. And then on Wednesday, I'll be doing the meditation and opening up to any and all questions that you guys have. And then we have some classes and courses next weekend, and even next week, we have the course titled Experiencing the Jhanas in the Four Stages of Enlightenment. That's starting on, I think it's the 17th. It's the Monday in June, where that course, I typically only teach it twice a year. So it's helpful to either attend that live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., or you can listen to the recordings as well. So thank you all so much for joining, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Take care. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.